Well, I had my goods moved out and stored and returned by Cummings Movings of South San Francisco. So I advise anyone who uses them to be very careful because I had a terrible experience with them. They lost a lot of my goods. They disposed of them even though they weren't on the disposal list. And some goods got broken because they didn't pack them properly. And my two valuable torch lamps, they said they would return those to me, and they even put it on the list to save, and they never returned them to me. Okay, what had happened was we live in a retirement home, and I moved here 5 years ago, and I used this mover, Cummings, and everything seemed okay 5 years ago. So I had a fire in the apartment, and we had to move out and move everything out and put it in storage so they could remodel the apartment and redo it. So I used Cummings again because they were good the last time. They were okay. And they moved me out and they put it in storage, and then they moved the stuff back 3 months later. But unfortunately, I found when they moved the stuff back that they packed some of the boxes terribly. They just dumped the stuff in without any packing, and a lamp and some other stuff got broken. And then they had some stuff marked for disposal that was damaged by the fire, by the smoke and the water. So they marked that for disposal, but they put some other stuff. They disposed of a lot of other stuff without my knowledge and without putting it on the disposal list. So when they came back, the main thing I didn't get was two big lamps that were very valuable torch lamps. And I got a lot of other stuff that I found missing after I finally unpacked. And I checked the list when they moved me out very carefully. And the only thing I found on the lamp on the disposal list that wasn't supposed to be there was these two lamps. So I said, I don't want these disposed. So they said, okay. And I marked it, save the lamps and don't dispose of them. But when they came back, a different mover, different crew was there, and the lamps were gone. And I said, what happened to the lamps? They said, oh, they were disposed of. I asked them not to be disposed and everything. So he said, well, just make a claim. I wanted to withhold some money, but he said, oh, you'll make a claim. It'll be all right. So I made a claim for the missing lamps and also some of the damaged stuff. And then there was a lot of other stuff missing when I unpacked that they didn't even list on the disposal list. So all of that stuff was gone. And I made a claim. I listed all the stuff that was gone and the lamps that they expressly agreed to return and not put in storage. And it was marked on their save, and the lamps were gone. And they said to me, well, you only have 60 cents a pound. So the lamps are only worth $3. And they didn't say anything about the two big torch lamps. They were worth about $500. So they were going, so they said, well, we'll give you $50 out of the goodness of our heart. So I didn't want to accept that because my losses were much worse than that. So I decided to file a complaint. I filed a complaint with the State Board of California, and I filed it with his consumer, of course. So I haven't heard anything from them. But it was a terrible experience to have, your valuable goods all thrown out without your permission.
What other items besides the lamp were gone?
Okay, let me make a list. I made a list of all the items that we missed. First of all, there was an inflatable bed. Then there was a big chair mat. I have an office in my home, so I had a plastic chair mat that cost $150. There was a clothes hamper, a clothes hanger device, two bookcases, and a box of sewing stuff. And another thing they did was very interesting. They took a big desk I had out, and they just dumped it. They just turned it on its side to get it out with the center drawer, the pencil drawer, still in place. And all the stuff was leaking out of the pencil drawer, the pencils and pens, and they were taking it out of the apartment like that. I said, you have to take that stuff out of the desk in the center drawer, those pencils and everything, and save that stuff. So they said, okay, they do it. And they took it downstairs, but the center drawer was missing in my desk. Were very careless at the end. I think they got tired after packing all my stuff, and they just didn't do a lot of things right.
How would you estimate your total monetary loss?
The total loss I estimated monetarily was about by weight. See, we're only allowed to go by the weight. We signed a contract. See, they were very reliable the first time. They didn't lose anything and everything was okay. So they said the basic coverage is 60 cents a pound, which means if they lose anything, they only pay you 60 cents a pound for whatever it's worth. So I signed that because I thought they were good. But if you wanted a higher coverage, you can pay more. I didn't choose to pay more because they were okay the first time. Anyway, the loss by weight, I figured with all this stuff, was about $611. But the two torch lamps that they promised to return, and it was written on the bill to save, I felt that shouldn't even come under the 60 cents a pound because they expressly agreed to return that to me.
What is the best solution for you in this situation?
Well, I asked them to reimburse me for the lamps and some more money for the weight of the other stuff that wasn't returned. But they only offered me $50, and I didn't want to accept that. They said, take it or leave it, and that closes our deal. So I didn't want to accept that. I thought they should be honorable. They made a mistake, but they weren't, and they just don't want to pay any more money.
What recommendations would you give for other customers of Cummings Moving?
Well, I would not use Cummings again if it's up to me. And I would recommend that if anybody hires a mover, to talk to a lot of people and also to pay the extra money in case they lose anything, and also to check everything very carefully, even if it takes an hour. Don't rely on their disposal list. Check everything and watch them as they pack very carefully to make sure they pack everything very carefully. They had 5 men here. 2 or 3 were packing and 2 were moving, and everything was going on so fast. And I should have stayed more watching every one of the men carefully because you can't trust them to. I trusted their disposal list that they put everything on and that they were going to dispose, but they didn't list a lot of things and they disposed it without my permission. So be very careful if you ever move, is my advice.
What can Cummings Moving improve in terms of their customer service?
Well, they could get better supervision. They just send a bunch of movers out, and they probably don't give them too much training. They need to train them more, and they need to train the supervisor more to take more care and to have more respect for their customers' goods. They actually packed 1 or 2 boxes at the end. They just dumped the telephones in there and a lamp in there that got broken, and they didn't even pad it. They padded a lot of stuff, but they got tired at the end, I guess, and they put all the stuff in one box without even padding it, and another box they put a lamp in, a glass lamp, with some hardware, some heavy metal hardware, which shouldn't be. So you've got to watch them like a hawk unless they are very reliable and take good care of and have respect for their customers' goods.
Why did you decide to go public and share your experience with them?
Well, I couldn't get any relief from them because I sent them a letter and I said that if you didn't want to pay me the fair value of what you lost and what you threw away without my permission, I would put it on sites like His Consumer, and that didn't have any effect. So that's what I did. I also made a complaint to the state agency. Haven't heard anything from them yet.